What's good, world? It's your boy TWiZ, and welcome to 5 Minutes of TWiZDDOM. 5 minutes of tips and tricks to help grow your music brand. In today's episode, we're going to talk about being signed versus being independent. Now, there's a lot of buzz going on the internet about Summer Walker's deal and how she is getting played and everything of that nature. But you got to take these things in consideration when you're looking at somebody or an artist that is signed. The first thing you have to understand is how these labels work. A label's number one priority outside of just basically making music and producing music is to make that money. That's right. How can they capitalize on your likeness to make money? Now, you've heard horror stories about labels, how they end up getting more money than the artists, and artists are getting paid, etc., etc. You have to think business-minded when you're thinking about a label, okay? First and foremost, a label is going to forefront all of the money, all of the costs, all the things that's necessary to make sure your likeness or your brand is successful. Because at the end of the day, if you're not successful, then they're not successful because they're investing in you to recoup the funds that are coming from that. So you have to understand that. Now, you're asking, like, why would somebody sign your rights and everything for, you know, creating your projects and your music? Why would somebody like Summer Walker do that? Well, you got to think about it. The average artist comes from nothing. The average artist doesn't have anything already. They don't make enough money already as it is. They may be working a 9 to 5 and they're not happy about how things are going and they're still pursuing. There's so many different situations when you think about artists. Like, artistry is one of those things where it's subjective. And if you don't get in front of the right audience or the right people or have the right promotion team behind you, then it can fall on deaf ears because not everybody's going to see the same vision that you see. Not everybody's going to like the products that you make. But it's the label's job to make sure you get into the right people. And the thing about a label is they have so many connections. You know, they have all these different streaming sites on lock. They got these different business owners that they could work with the label. A lot of people, they have connections within the network of a label. So they have all this clout, and you gotta think all you're bringing to the table is your product. Now, I get it. Your product is what drives this thing and allow it to make it be what it be. You're not putting your own money up to the table to do all this stuff. And if you did, it wouldn't be as significant as with the label. So yes, somebody like a Summer Walker will go ahead and sign a deal to where they have basically 15 cents on the dollar. And some people may look at that like, I like my independent ways and all this, that, and the third, which is cool, and I'm going to get to that later. But just think about it. As a label, somebody's going to pay for your promotion, pay for your studio time, pay for your mixing and mastering, pay a producer for the instrumentals that you're going to be using to do that, pay for your promotion to get yourself out there, interviews, being on top shows and platforms and stuff, because you're not just going to walk on these sets and just thinking that you're going to do everything. They have to have the connection to get in those doors. Okay, being on commercials that on TV, performance at big venues, like all these things the label do. And of course, this stuff is not free just because the labels have connection with it. Again, they're in business to make money. And that's why you hear things about a 360 deal, which is basically you produce your song and they own everything about you, from your name to your likeness to whatever it is that makes you popular. And not only that, we already know streaming doesn't really make that much revenue like that. So how else are they going to get their money back from investing in you as an artist? So they're going to take away from the merchandise. They're going to take away from non-musical things that may allow you to do things, your show money, all that kind of stuff. Like, you'll get paid, obviously, but it's not going to be to the magnitude that you're hoping to get as being an independent artist. Now, let's focus more so on the independent side. You know, recently we've been glorifying independent, which valid reason to celebrate, because ownership is key to wealth. You know, if you don't own the things that will make you wealthy, then how can you be wealthy? But this is the thing, right? People glorify just like that, like being an entrepreneur. Yes, it's cool to have your own business, but it's a lot of work. That's what they don't tell you. It's a lot of work. You have to be a one-man team until you can afford or have people to join your circle and your network to allow you to do the things you need to do. That means you have to be your own bank. You have to be your own lawyer. You have to be your own promoter. You have to be your own engineer. You have to be your own beat maker or find ways to be cost efficient to get these things to where it doesn't bankrupt you. Your career is only going to go as far as your money goes. And you have to balance that on top of having a life. You know, eating, rent, utilities, basic life. And not only including if you have a family. Because the first and foremost thing you need to do is take care of your family, and then, you know, make sure you invest in your career. And the thing about being independent is a lot of people think this is supposed to happen like quickly. Like when you choose to be independent, you're saying, hey, I'm going to take the long road. Meaning this could take years before you even break close to anywhere that you would get. And then there's, I'll sign to a label. And this can happen a lot faster than what I could do on my own. And that's why people sign. Now, granted, some people sign because they get caught up in the numbers and stuff that the labels are offering you. For instance, a label can sign you to a $20,000 signing bonus or whatever the case may be, right? But a lot of people think that you get that $20,000 up front, right? And that's yours and that you don't have to do anything. No, they're basically giving you an upfront cost to take care of however many albums or however many years that he may take. So think about a sports contract. They'll say, hey, he signed for $100 million. Well, technically, it's not $100 million up front. Each year, you get a certain amount of budget for you to manage your life, or in music sense, to manage your projects. So you can get whatever producers you want, mixing, mastering, videos, shoots, promotion. All of that has to be included into a budget for you to be able to spend. So that $100 million or that $20,000 that I, just mentioned earlier, that's not technically all yours to spend. Obviously you take care of your business and you have X amount of time for you to complete these projects, for you to get to put out that projects, for you to get that money. And not only that, they're gonna want to recoup that money. So basically, you're not going to be making a lot of profit up front because you're basically trying to make balance. You're trying to get zero balance because you don't see any money until you recoup that investment that they gave you. So to be honest with you, when you get signed, the higher the number, the more scarier the deal may look, because you don't know how this is going to work. There's no guarantee that you're going to be popular because, again, the label owns you. So if they have things going on, or similar artists like you or something like that, they could literally put you on the shelf life. And you're signed, but you're still not making any moves, and now you're restricted because they have your ownership. So they are, bad, deals and bad labels out there. But the theory of it makes sense. And whenever you choose to be signed, you're basically saying, I'm putting all my chips in first to get where it needs to be. And there's artists who have been signed and have been successful. Okay, look at 50 Cent. He was signed. Okay, he was signed. He's successful, and once he made his balance, he was able to invest in the other things. Now that's just the way his deal is. Anything non-music, they're not touching that. He was able to sell millions of records musically, and using that fame, using that popularity, using that clout from that buzz that was built from the label to invest in things like vitamin water. Jay-Z's another one. So is Beyonce. You could put them in the same boat, right? They were signed. Beyonce was signed for 20 years. 20 years she was signed until she was able to buy back her ownership and her rights for her to be able to be independent now and make fully everything. Like, people strive for this independent thing and glorify it, but it comes with a lot of work. Sometimes it's more work than you realize until you're deep in it. And it's frustrating when you're putting all this work and you don't see the progress as much as you think you would see when you're going into this thing of being independent. Because independent, you're not putting your chips all in. You're like, I'm betting on myself. I'm trying to get to the end to where I can make a bunch of money. And a lot of people bring up Chance the Rapper, which is great. Because you got to think about Chance the Rapper. Yes, he was independent, but he did something that was never done in the industry, and that's really blow up off of SoundCloud and all those different things to get him to where he was at. Now the SoundCloud's a popular thing. Now we're at TikTok. Now that TikTok's a popular thing, things are not going to be as great of an impact because more people are now starting to get on that wave. So now as an independent, you have to always constantly think about different ways to be creative and how to get yourself out there and how to separate yourself from the millions of other people who are really doing these things in the market. Don't get me wrong. It's great to be independent. It's great to make your own moves and do your own things. In the words of Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. And sad to say this, it ain't built for everybody. Just because it sounds good and it looks good that some people do it, it's not an easy feat to do. But again, when you're independent, you have to do something that's going to earth shatter to do things. And of course, there's different levels of success. Some people may see a stable income coming in, being independent to where they literally do what they do and they're able to survive off that. And then there's some people that's like, nah, I'm trying to make millions off this thing to be independent. But if you look at a lot of the successful people in this industry, like they are signed or some kind of working with some kind of company or corporation to get them where they need to get. And then they make the appropriate moves that they need to bring back that ownership. They never lose sight of the ownership. That's the thing. They never lose sight of that. The smart people never lose sight of that. The smart people is like, okay, I may work for this company for a period of time to learn the ins and outs of the business, to get more educated on the things that they probably didn't know or probably wouldn't even have access to if they were still just independent, still being stubborn, trying to do things on their own. They understand this process. They're understanding the things that are going on. They're looking at the mistakes that these businesses are doing, these corporations are doing. And then they're doing their homework, they're doing their research, and then they're creating businesses from the loopholes that they've learned from working with this business. So no, it's not anything worse. So no, being signed is not necessarily a bad thing. You know what I mean? If you have a plan. Now, obviously, you can't just sign any deal, of course, which that happens to a lot of artists, and they end up in a situation where they're underwater, basically, when it comes to their finances. But you want to make sure you have a plan, because to be honest with you, being independent isn't enough. It's not enough. It takes time and time and energy to do this thing. So being independent, it's a great thing, but think about the people who are successful with this thing. There's something that they did, they worked with somebody to get them to where they need to be. So just think about that next time when you're like, oh no, it's the devil, don't get signed, don't sign, they stupid, they losing ownership of their stuff. That may be true. But at one point in time, if you do the right things, it will, it'll come to fruition. It'll be something that's great. Okay? Just be smart out there. Business savvy. Use your brain. Use your noodle. Okay? Because at any point in time, even being independent, things could go sideways. Doesn't matter if you signed or not. So make sure do your due diligence, man. And that's been another episode of 5 Minutes of TWiZDDOM. Thank you to everybody who's watched this video. If you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell for the notifications anytime I drop these gems for you. Because without you, there's no me. And this is why I do it, baby. Certified.